Ryan Walker was a billionaire CEO. His technology company was worth billions of dollars, and his face appeared on business magazines across the country. People admired his success, his expensive lifestyle, and the powerful empire he had built. At 38 years old, Ryan had everything most people could only dream about. On a bright Monday morning, Ryan stood in his glass-walled office overlooking the city. Hundreds of employees worked below him, but he did not remember anything because he kept staring at the wedding card lying on his desk. In 3 weeks, he would marry Sophia Bennett. A luxury hotel had been booked. Famous guests would attend. The media was already talking about it. Everything was perfect. Ryan picked up a gold envelope and smiled. It was an invitation card. It was addressed to Michelle Carter, his ex-wife. 5 years had passed since their divorce, but Ryan still remembered the day she left. They had been married when he was still building his company. Back then, money was tight, and success seemed far away. Ryan often told people that Michelle had abandoned him before he became successful. It was a story he enjoyed repeating. According to Ryan, she hadn't believed in him. According to Ryan, she had walked away when things became difficult. Over time, he convinced himself that it was true. Now he wanted Michelle to see what she had lost. His assistant entered the office. "Mr. Walker, should I send the final invitations?" Ryan handed her the envelope. The assistant looked at the name, Michelle Carter. Ryan nodded. A taunting smile appeared on his face. "Make sure she gets it." Across town, Michelle sat quietly in a small bookstore cafe. She wore simple clothes and looked nothing like the glamorous women often seen around billionaires. She was reading a novel when her phone buzzed. An email notification appeared. "Wedding invitation." Curious, she opened it. A few seconds later, she laughed softly. The customers nearby glanced at her. Michelle shook her head. Some people never changed. The invitation included a personal note. "I hope you'll attend. It would mean a lot to me." She knew exactly what Ryan was doing. He didn't want her support. He wanted an audience. He wanted her sitting among the guests while he married another woman. He wanted her to feel regret. Closed the email and stared through the cafe window. 5 years. That was how long it had been since she had spoken to Ryan. At first, the divorce had hurt deeply. She had loved him once. She had supported him when nobody else believed in his dreams. She remembered working late nights beside him. She remembered unpaid bills, encouraging him after business failures. But she also remembered the person he became after success arrived. Money changed Ryan. Fame changed Ryan. Eventually, another woman entered his life. Didn't end because Michelle stopped believing in him. It ended because Ryan stopped valuing her. The truth was simple. Ryan had broken their marriage, yet he spent years pretending otherwise. Michelle sighed and picked up her coffee. A young woman approached her table. "Excuse me," she said nervously. Michelle looked up. It was Emma, her assistant. Emma sat down. "You got the invitation?" Michelle smiled. "Yes." And Michelle looked back at the screen. Then she surprised Emma. "I'm going." Emma nearly choked. "I'm attending. Why?" Michelle's smile widened. "Because Ryan clearly wants me there." Emma studied her face carefully. There was no sadness, no jealousy, no anger, only confidence. For the first time, Emma realized something important. Ryan Walker thought he was inviting a broken ex-wife to his wedding. What he didn't know was that Michelle Carter was no longer the woman he remembered, and before that wedding day arrived, he was about to discover just how badly he had underestimated her. Michelle spent the next few days thinking about the invitation. At first, she had planned to ignore it. After all, she had not spoken to Ryan in 5 years. There was no reason to reopen old wounds. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized that attending the wedding would finally allow her to put the past behind her. One rainy afternoon, Michelle sat alone in her apartment, looking through an old box of photographs. She had not touched in years. Inside were pictures. From the early days of her marriage, she slowly picked up one photograph. It showed a younger Ryan, smiling beside her in their small apartment. They looked happy, truly happy. A sad smile appeared on Michelle's face. The truth was something very few people knew. Ryan had not always been the arrogant billionaire everyone saw today. In fact, when they first met, Ryan had been kind, caring, and hardworking. He treated Michelle with respect and always made her feel loved. Even during the difficult years when they had no money, he never stopped trying to build a better future for them. The man Michelle married was not a bad man. The real problem had been someone else, Ryan's mother, Margaret Walker. From the very beginning, Margaret had disliked Michelle. She never believed Michelle was good enough for her son. Margaret came from a wealthy family and had always dreamed that Ryan would marry a woman from high society. Someone rich, someone powerful, someone who could improve the family's status. Michelle was none of those things. She came from a normal family and worked an ordinary job when she met Ryan. To Margaret, that made her unacceptable. At first, Margaret hid her dislike behind polite smiles, but after the wedding, things changed. She constantly criticized Michelle. The meals were never good enough. The house was never clean enough. Even Michelle's clothes became a reason for complaint. No matter what Michelle did, Margaret always found something wrong. Ryan often defended his wife in the beginning. Whenever his mother made unfair comments, he would tell her to stop. But Margaret was clever, very clever. Instead of attacking Michelle directly, she slowly began planting doubts in Ryan's mind. She would wait until they were alone and say things like, "Are you sure Michelle believes in your dreams? She doesn't seem supportive. You deserve someone more ambitious." At first, Ryan ignored her, but hearing the same things repeatedly started affecting him. Over time, Margaret became more manipulative. She created misunderstandings. Between them, she twisted conversations. She lied about things Michelle supposedly said. Whenever arguments happened, Margaret quietly positioned herself as the concerned mother who only wanted the best for her son. Michelle remembered countless nights trying to explain herself, trying to convince Ryan that she loved him, trying to save a marriage that was slowly falling apart. But Margaret's influence became stronger every year. Then came the worst lie of all. One evening, Margaret told Ryan that Michelle had admitted she regretted marrying him and thought his business would never succeed. Statement was completely false. Michelle had never said anything like that, but Ryan believed his mother. That lie created a crack in their marriage that never fully healed. Arguments became more frequent, disappeared, and eventually, when another woman entered Ryan's life, everything collapsed. Michelle carefully placed the photograph back into the box. Even after all these years, she still wondered what might have happened if Margaret had accepted her. Would she and Ryan still be together? Would their marriage have survived? She would never know. Her phone suddenly rang. It was an old friend named Daniel Reeves. Daniel had once been Ryan's closest business partner. After the divorce, he remained one of the few people who knew the full story.
No.
"Michelle," Daniel said, "it's been a while." Daniel hesitated for a moment. "Is it true you're attending the wedding?" Michelle laughed softly. "Yes, I'm going." Daniel became quiet. Michelle put the phone down. Her heart was broken because she was deeply in love with her ex-husband Ryan. Finally, it was wedding day. Michelle stood outside the grand wedding hall for a long time before stepping inside. Her heart was beating fast, but from something deeper, something she had tried to bury for years. Love, even after everything. She still loved Ryan Walker. She hated admitting it to herself, but it was true. 5 years had passed, yet no one had ever replaced him in her heart. She had built her life again. She had become strong, successful, and independent. But inside, a part of her still belonged to him. That was the part hurting the most. Today, Michelle took a deep breath and walked in. The wedding hall was massive. White flowers decorated every corner. Soft golden lights made everything look like a dream. And expensive guests filled every seat. It was a perfect billionaire wedding. Too perfect. And that perfection made her feel even smaller. Every step she took on the marble floor felt heavy, like she was walking into a memory she should have never reopened. People started noticing. Her whispers followed her like shadows. That's his ex-wife. She actually came. Michelle kept her head down, trying to ignore them. But her heart was already breaking piece by piece. Then she saw him, Ryan Walker, standing at the front, handsome, confident, smiling, wearing a perfectly fitted black suit, looking like the world belonged to him, and beside him, Sophia Bennett. His bride, beautiful, elegant, smiling proudly as she held Ryan's arm, like she had won something priceless. Michelle stopped walking. Her breath froze in her chest. For a moment, the world went silent. Her mind refused to accept what her eyes were seeing. This was the man she had once loved with everything she had, the man she had supported when he had nothing, the man she had believed in when no one else did. And now he stood there, ready to marry someone else. A sharp pain spread through her chest. Not anger, not hatred, just heartbreak, pure, silent heartbreak. She forced herself to move forward, step by step, until she found a seat near the middle row. Her hands were shaking slightly, but she hid it. She didn't want anyone to see her breaking, especially not him. Ryan's eyes scanned the crowd as he stood at the stage. He looked confident, even proud, like he was exactly where he was meant to be. Then his eyes landed on her. Michelle. For a brief second, he paused. A flicker of surprise crossed his face. He smiled slightly, as if confirming something in his mind. She really came, he murmured under his breath. Sophia leaned closer. Your ex is here, she whispered. Ryan nodded calmly. She wanted to see what she lost. Sophia chuckled softly. Poor thing. Those words hit Michelle like a silent slap. She looked away, but her eyes burned. Not because of Sophia, but because Ryan didn't even look guilty. He didn't look sad. He didn't look like someone who once promised her forever. He looked moved on completely. Ryan's mother entered the front row. She walked with pride, her expensive jewelry shining under the lights. But the moment she saw Michelle, her expression changed. A slow, sharp smile appeared on her face. Not warm, not polite, taunting-like. She had been waiting for this exact moment. Michelle felt her stomach tighten. Margaret sat down slowly, but kept her eyes fixed on her. That smile said everything without words. You don't belong here. Michelle lowered her gaze, her heart sinking deeper. The music started. Again the priest began speaking. The ceremony was starting, and Michelle realized something painful in that moment. She hadn't just come to a wedding. She had come to watch the man she still loved marry another woman. While pretending she was strong enough not to break, the wedding ceremony had just begun when something unexpected happened. Ryan could not focus. The priest was speaking. Guests were watching, and Sophia stood beside him smiling. But Ryan's attention kept drifting toward Michelle. She was sitting quietly in the crowd. She wasn't crying. She wasn't making a scene. She simply sat there, looking heartbroken. For some reason that bothered him. A strange feeling settled in his chest. Suddenly, his phone vibrated inside his pocket. He would have ignored it, but the message came from an old family lawyer. Ryan frowned and glanced at it. The lawyer wrote only one sentence. I found the documents your mother asked me to hide years ago. You need to see them immediately. Ryan's heart skipped a beat. His mother had died 2 years earlier. Why would she hide documents? As the ceremony continued, curiosity slowly turned into anxiety. When the priest announced a short pause before signing the marriage papers, Ryan stepped away. He opened the email attachment, messages, and financial records. The more he read, the paler he became. His hands started shaking. One letter was written by his mother herself in it. Margaret admitted that she had never wanted Michelle in the family. She described how she had deliberately created misunderstandings between them. She had hidden Michelle's letters. She had lied about conversations. She had convinced Ryan that Michelle doubted him. Worst of all, she had encouraged Sophia to get closer to Ryan. During a vulnerable period in his marriage, every accusation Ryan had believed about Michelle was based on lies planted by his mother. Felt the ground disappear beneath him. For 5 years, he had blamed the wrong person. For 5 years, he had hated the woman who had actually loved him. And now she was sitting only a few feet away, watching him marry someone else. Ryan walked back into the hall, looking like a completely different man. Guests immediately noticed something was wrong. Sophia grabbed his arm. "Ryan, what's happening?" He didn't answer. His eyes found Michelle. For the first time in years, he saw the truth, not the lies. Stories. The truth. Nights she stayed awake helping him. He remembered her support when nobody believed in him. He remembered every sacrifice she had made. And suddenly he understood Michelle had never betrayed him. He had betrayed her. The realization hit him harder than any business failure ever had. The room became silent as Ryan stepped away from Sophia. Sophia asked nervously. Still, he said nothing. Then he turned toward the guests. "I can't do this." The entire ballroom gasped. Sophia's face turned white. "What are you talking about?" Ryan took a deep breath. "I can't marry you." Shock spread across the room. Reporters, business partners, and family members stared in disbelief. Sophia looked humiliated. "You're ending the wedding right now." Ryan nodded. "Because I finally learned the truth." He briefly explained what he had discovered. Hidden letters. The lies. His mother's manipulation. The guests exchanged stunned looks. Many could hardly believe what they were hearing. Then Ryan did something nobody expected. Michelle. Every eye in the room followed him when he stopped in front of her. His voice trembled. "I'm sorry." Michelle looked up at him silently. Ryan swallowed hard. "I was wrong." Years of guilt filled his eyes. "I blamed you for things you never did." His voice cracked. "I destroyed our marriage." For the first time, the powerful billionaire CEO looked completely broken. "Please forgive me." A tear rolled down Michelle's cheek, not because she was happy, because this was all she had wanted for years. The truth, the acknowledgement, apology, but some wounds were simply too deep. The ballroom remained completely silent, waited for Michelle's response, looked at her with hope in his eyes. For years, he had imagined this moment differently. He thought if he ever apologized, everything could somehow be fixed. But life wasn't that simple. Michelle slowly stood. She looked at Ryan for a long moment. Then she smiled sadly. "I forgive you." Relief instantly appeared on Ryan's face, disappeared just as quickly, because Michelle wasn't finished. "Forgive you," she repeated softly. "But that doesn't mean I can come back." Ryan's expression fell. The words hit him harder than anything else. Michelle took a deep breath. "You broke my heart, Ryan." Tears filled her eyes. "I spent years loving you, while you believed the worst about me." The room remained silent. "You trusted lies. Your own wife?" Ryan lowered his head. Every word was true. Michelle smiled sadly again. "I loved you more than anyone ever will." Ryan's eyes filled with tears. "And that's exactly why I have to leave." He looked up. Michelle wiped away a tear. Because the woman who loved you that way doesn't exist anymore. The words shattered him. For years, Ryan had taken her love for granted. Now he finally understood its value, and it was gone. Michelle picked up her purse. The ballroom watched as she turned toward the exit. Reached for her hand, Michelle. Please, she stopped. For a second, hope returned to his eyes. Then she gently removed his hand. Goodbye, Ryan. Those 2 words ended everything. Michelle walked away without looking back. This time, she wasn't leaving because she had been pushed away. She was leaving because she finally chose herself. Closed behind her, the woman he had spent years blaming had forgiven him. But forgiveness was not the same thing as a second chance. Ryan stepped down from several public commitments and quietly rebuilt his life. The wealth remained, the company remained, but the one person who had loved him before the money, before the fame, and before the success was gone forever. As for Michelle, she moved forward not with anger, not with revenge, but with peace. She was free. And Ryan finally learned a lesson that no amount of money could buy. Sometimes the greatest loss is not the person who leaves. It's realizing their value only after they're gone.